Guess who's back, 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 back again, again, again. Brad is back, back, back. Tell your friends, friends, friends. That's who's back. Brad is back. Guess who's back? Brad is back. Nah, 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 nah. Created a monster. What's up, everybody? My name is Brad and welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel for the very first time. I know I'm back. It's me in the flesh. The king has returned. No, that was dumb. No one cares. I'm not the king. Whatever. We're moving on. But it's been a while. It's been since November or so, November-ish of last year, since I've sat down in this chair and made a video for you guys. It was an unintended, unplanned hiatus. I got sick. And then I think I had the flu. I don't really know what it was, but I had this lingering respiratory stuff that just would not go away. I thought it was over it and it'd come back. Thought it was over it, come back. I think I finally kicked it, knock on wood. So I think I'm finally over it. I'm ready to get back into making videos. I'm excited to get back into making videos. So today we're going to do a video that probably everyone did like 3 or 4 months ago, even though now it's like mid-March, leaning towards the end of March. I'm going to do today the 23 books that I want to read in the year 2023. Getting a late start on it, but that's okay. We're going to do it anyway because that's what I want to do. So this is probably going to be the only TBR-ish kind of video I'm going to do for the year. I think I'm overdoing TBR videos because I either don't finish what I have on my TBR or end up reading books that weren't on my TBR to begin with. I feel they're kind of stifling. I kind of just like to pick and choose whatever I want to read whenever I'm feeling like it. And a TBR just kind of stifles me in ways. So this is going to sort of be my yearly TBR. I think I can handle a yearly TBR. So these are 23 books I'm going to try to read this year. There's a few arcs in here. They're all physical books, by the way. All books I have here in this messy ass office. But these are all physical books. There's a few arcs in here, but most of them are ones I've bought. There's a few arcs I actually bought. We'll talk about that when we get there. But yeah, I'm excited for all these books, so let's go ahead. We'll dive right into it. They're in no particular order, just the way I stacked them up. So first up, this one is an arc. This is Looking Glass Sound by Catriona Ward. It comes out in August, I think, from Tor Nightfire. I really love Kat's work. I read The Last House on Needless Street, which just completely blew me away. I read her book Little Eve, which is her newest book. It's actually one of her earlier books. They re-released it. I really enjoyed that one. We had her on Paper Cuts, one episode. It was a blast to get to talk to her. I'll link it up here. But this is her newest one with Tor Nightfire. She was talking about on Twitter that's her most ambitious book, which definitely has me intrigued, especially after Last House on Needless Street. That one was pretty ambitious with all the threads and how she tied everything together. And she said she didn't write any of that stuff down. She just did it all in her head, which was just kind of crazy. This one sounds cool, though. This one kind of sort of like she's taking the Stephen King route a little bit. It's about a guy in Maine, and I think, what is it? We'll just read a little bit here. In a lonely cottage overlooking the rocky Maine coast, Wilder Harlow begins the last book he will ever write. It is a story of his childhood summer friends and the serial killer that stalked their small New England town. I don't want to read more. I love books involving serial killers, whether it's true crime or fiction like this. I don't know, something about good serial killer book just really draws my interest and pulls me in. So this first up, Looking Glass Sound by Catriona Ward, coming out in August later this year from Tor Nightfire. Next up, this is The Line That Held Us by David Joy. I'm a big David Joy fan. I've read 3 of his books, I think. Where All Light Tends to Go, When These Mountains Burn. I think I read one more. I can't remember. But I think he said this one takes place kind of around in October, Halloweenish, even though it's not a horror book. He writes like Southern grit lit kind of stuff. I really enjoy his work, and people say this is maybe their favorite one of his, the best one of his. I don't really want to read the synopsis because it's pretty long, but we'll read a little bit. When Daryl Moody went hunting after a monster buck, a kill that could make the difference between meat for the winter and an empty freezer, he never expected he'd accidentally shoot a man digging ginseng. Worse yet, he's killed a brewer, a family notorious for vengeance and violence. So yeah, I love his work. It's gritty. I think it's in North Carolina is where he lives, where all of his stuff is set. in the Appalachian region. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. He's got a new book coming out later this year. I don't remember what it's called, but it looks great as well. But yeah, I really want to read this one. The Thin Line. No, that's not it at all. I cannot even read. The Lion That Held Us by David Joy. Next up, this one is actually the Spinebreakers book club pick for this month in March, and this is The Hacienda by Isabel Canas. I hope I'm saying her name right. This one's sort of a historical fiction, Gothic, Mexican horror story. It takes place during the overthrow of the Mexican government. I think it all takes place in Mexico. I don't really read too much about it because I don't want to spoil it for this month. Everything else I'll forget about, but this one's I'm going to read soon. But I've heard really good things about it. It's sort of been compared to Mexican Gothic, which I think, yeah, it's actually next up on the list. Yeah, I'm really excited for this one, and she's got another book coming out later this year. I don't remember what it's called, but something about the Vampires of El Norte, or El Norte and the Vampires, something like that. About the Hacienda sounds great. Sort of a haunted house. It says Mexican Gothic meets Rebecca in the supernatural suspense novel set in the aftermath of the Mexican War of Independence. So yeah, this one sounds fun. I really like, I've been enjoying reading some more Mexican and Latinx authors, so I'm really looking forward to this one. This is The Hacienda by Isabel Canas. Like I said, next up is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I've read her book. I'm going to blank on it. Maybe it says it in here. It's her vampire book, Certain Dark Things, which I really enjoyed. I'm looking forward to this one. I've heard this one is spore horror with sort of the mushroom fungus type of horror in here, and it's like a Gothic story as well, set in an isolated mansion in the 1950s Mexico. So this one sounds cool. If you can ever find the paperback of this, it has like this interior art inside that looks just looks like an old school movie poster. I really wish the hardback had that art in there because I really love that piece of art. She does really good about that too. If you follow her on like Twitter and Instagram, she'll show pieces of art that she's had commissioned for her different stories that always look super well done. I really enjoy those. Yeah, this one sounds cool. Another Mexican type horror story like The Hacienda, set in 1950s in Mexico. And again, the spore horror, kind of like if you've been watching The Last of Us, maybe kind of along those same lines. This one is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And speaking of spore horror, I think this one is along those same lines. This is The Hollow Kind by Andy Davidson. This is his newest book. I read his book, The Boatman's Daughter, which I absolutely loved that book. His prose is just gorgeous. I love his storytelling. And I think this one, it's got a cool, let me show it to you. Cool map on the end pages there. I'm a sucker for a map in a book. I like that. But I think this one is spore horror as well, dealing with some kind of fungus or mushrooms or something. And it's hard to tell on the cover. I thought it was a panther for the longest time, but it's actually a black bear or brown bear. And I think the bear gets infected with whatever this fungus is. So it's like a zombified mushroom bear kind of thing, which sounds cool. But I love his work. He is an outstanding author. Great writer. I'm looking forward to this one. I think this one takes place in Georgia or Arkansas, Alabama, so in the South, which I love stories set in the South. And I really haven't heard many people talking about this one. Those who have talked about it have loved it. But I feel like not a lot of people have read this one yet. So I'm going to read it. And if I love it, I'm going to be spreading the word on this one. This is The Hollow Kind by Andy Davidson. Next up is Winter Counts. I'm going to butcher this author's name. David Heska Wanblee Wyden. I probably did not get that right at all. But this is Winter Counts. This was a Book of the Month book. This is, I believe, he is a Native American author. Does it say? Yeah, he is. I'm going to mess this up too. Siskiyou Lakota Nation. He's a citizen of the Siskiyou Lakota Nation. I'm sorry, I probably messed that up too. But this one sounds cool. This is more sort of like a crime thing. We're following Virgil Wounded Horse. He's the local sort of law enforcement for the Rosebud Indian Reservation in South Dakota. And he's sort of, there's heroin coming in, it affects his nephew. And he's sort of tasked with finding out where the heroin is coming from and dealing with that any way he can. So some Native American crime fiction sounds great. That's something else I want to read. I don't know if I have another one on here or not, but I want to read some more Native American authors. I've got White Horse by Erica T. Worth, I think her name is. I don't know if it's in this stack, but I've got somewhere here. That's another book I want to read this year as well. Of course, Stephen Graham Jones, I enjoy him a lot. This one sounds cool though. Some crime fiction. Winter Counts by David Heska Wanblee Wyden. And last one for the first stack. This is a newer book that I purchased. This is The Shards by Bret Easton Ellis. I actually got a signed first edition. I picked this up at Joseph Beth in Lexington. It was between this or How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. Both were signed. I chose this one first, or I chose this one over that one. I feel like a signed Bret Easton Ellis is probably more rare than a signed Grady Hendrix. But for the Grady Hendrix book is really good. But I wanted to get this one because this one also involves a serial killer, or at least the serial killer is in the periphery. Like I said earlier, I'm a sucker for a book that involves a serial killer. I've never read Bret Easton Ellis before. I've never read American Psycho. He's got another really popular one, like Something Park. Is it saying here? Lunar Park, I think, is one that people also talk about a lot. I think this is his first book in like a decade or so, but I think it's sort of autobiographical in a way about him growing up. And let's see, where's the serial killer part in here? Let's see. So set against the intensely vivid and nostalgic backdrop of less than zero LA, The Shards is a mesmerizing fusion of fact and fiction, the real and the imagined, that brilliantly explores the emotional fabric of Bret's life at 17. Sex and jealousy, oppression, and murderous rage. And does it say the serial killer's name in here? The Trawler, a serial killer on the loose who seems to be drawing ever closer to Bret and his friends. So yeah, again, if it's involving serial killers, whether it's fact or fiction, I'm a sucker for that. I'm enjoying that. So this is The Shards by Bret Easton Ellis. Next up, second stack. This is an older book. It's one I've been saying I was going to read for a long time. My buddy James Fetcho has been trying to get me to read this book forever, and I keep saying I'm going to, and you all know how it goes. You say you're going to read a book, or you're wanting to read a book, you have the best of intentions, but you read another book instead, and then you read that book over there, and then the book you were intending to read just keeps getting farther and farther back in the pile. But I'm going to read this one. I promise, James, if you're still watching. This is Necroscope by Brian Lumley. I don't know. I know this is a bigger series. This one says it's the first in a new trilogy. So I think there's a couple trilogies and maybe some offshoot books or some prequel books or whatnot. Oh, this has a cool, I don't know, is this one a step back cover? If it doesn't have a cutout, I guess it's still a step back cover. Step back cover in there. This one's all about vampires, if you couldn't tell. Looks like it's set in the Balkan Mountains of Romania. Is that a typo on the back? This says Rumania, Rumania. Is that a real place, or is that supposed to be Romania? I don't know. I'll have to read and find out. There's a terrible evil growing, long buried in the hollowed ground, bound by earth and silver, a master vampire schemes and plots. So you all know, if you've been around for the channel for a while, I'm a sucker for vampires as well. Vampires and serial killers, if I can untie my tongue, seem to be my thing. So I'm excited for this one. I've had this book forever. So if I enjoy this, I'm going to pick up the other ones for sure. I think it's Tor that's re-releasing these. I saw the other day on their Instagram that they had put out one of these again in paperback, maybe? Like, not mass market paperback, but like trade paperback size. So if I enjoy this one, I'll try to pick those up. But I like the old school paperbacks. That's Necroscope by Brian Lumley. So these next two books are ARCs, but these are actually ones that I bought at my public library's bookstore. And that was like back in summer or fallish of last year. I went in there, they just had a ton of ARCs in there one day. I don't know who brought them in there or why the library was selling them, because they all say not for sale on there. I think it all goes to kind of charity for the library itself, so not really making a profit. I don't know. But most of them were like romance books and things I wasn't really interested in, but these two definitely caught my eye. First one is 5 Decembers by James Kestrel. This is a hard case crime book. I've heard this book is amazing. It's set in December 1941 during World War II. I love stuff set in World War II. And I think this follows, I think it's like 1 year. It's 5 December, so it follows this guy for 5 years. It's like a detective crime thing. America teeters on the brink, and in Honolulu, Hawaii, police detective Joe McGrady is assigned to investigate a homicide that will change his life forever. So that is all wrapped up with what's going on with World War II, and the cover is really cool too. Hard Case Crime, they always put out these cool, almost painted looking covers. I really dig their style. That's first up, James Kestrel, 5 Decembers from Hard Case Crime. That was the first arc that I bought. The second arc is Hawk Mountain by Connor Habib, and he might also be a Native American author, if I'm not mistaken. Does it say in here? Let's see if it says anything about him. I don't think it does. No, I don't think it says anything about the author in here. Does it? We'll see. No, I don't think so. But this one's not horror, I don't think. I really don't know how to categorize this one. But I've heard amazing things. This one says it's about an English teacher is gaslit by his charismatic high school bully, and is tense the story of deception, manipulation, and murder. And I know my friend Sadie's mother horror, Sadie Harmon, she read this recently and said it just like broke her at the end. So I'm really excited for this one. I've heard good things about this one. Again, I don't know really how to categorize it. Is it crime? Is it horror? Maybe it's sort of in limbo between those two. But this is Hawk Mountain by Connor Habib. Next up, I just got this one in the mail the other day. This is Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi. I've been excited for this one since 2021 when they put out the special edition, like I think it was hardback, with Earthling Pub. Some religious horror. I know Ross Jeffrey, my buddy Ross, read it and was just raving about it, how much he loved it. So this one is about an orphanage, St. Vincent's Orphanage for Boys, early in the 20th century in a remote valley in Pennsylvania. And then one stormy night, a group of men arrive at the orphanage. They have weird symbols and stuff carved in their heads or their bodies and stuff. I think they kill one of the kids, and then sort of violence and chaos ensues after that. This one comes out with Tor Nightfire in July. Does it say? July, I think. Yeah, July 2023. But I've been excited for this one for a long time, based on the rave reviews from like Ross and other people who have already read it. They read the Earthling edition. So I'm real excited to have a copy of this one, some religious type of horror. I'm excited for this one. This is Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi. Next up, this is one I got for Christmas, maybe. I think my mother-in-law got me for this for Christmas or my birthday. This is Children of Chicago by Cynthia Pelayo. She also has the second book in the Chicago series coming out in like a week, which is called The Shoemaker's Magician. I don't know how closely they're related, if they're just all set in Chicago, or if they're like, you need to read this one and then this one, if you need to read them in any order or not. I'm not sure, but this one is sort of like a retelling of the Pied Piper fairy tale, involving children and things in Chicago, lots of crime and stuff like that. And I've heard Cena does a very good job. She lives in Chicago. She talks about Chicago all the time, how much she loves the city. And there's a lot of sort of history and facts and things about the city itself. Not only in this one, but I know in her new one, The Shoemaker's Magician, which is about this old movie theater in Chicago that she took a lot of history to build that story. So I'm excited for this one. I've heard this one's really great as well. Children of Chicago by Cynthia Pelayo. Next up, this one I actually got from the author himself, or I got it at Butcher Cabin Books up in Louisville. They had a reading for this book. This is Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman. And he did a live reading while we were there. He did a fantastic job. It was less of a reading and more of a performance. He barely looked at his notes to see what he was needing to read. and he did like voices for all the characters. It was really energized and acting it out and everything. So if you ever get a chance to see Clay do a live reading, take that opportunity because he did a fantastic job. This one I've heard is just, there's a lot of puke in this book. I watched an interview with Clay and Andy Davidson, and Andy Davidson was sort of ragging on him, giving him a hard time about how much vomit was in this book. But I think they're mushrooms. Mushrooms or some kind of drug that people can take and ingest, and it allows you to see dead people, I think is what's going on. The cover's cool. I like the ghost with the sheet over his head, or the person with the sheet over the head looks like a ghost. I think you get addicted to it. You want to take this drug or this mushroom more and more and more, and you see dead people. Is it real? Is it just hallucinations? I don't know. But I've heard this book is gross and awesome. I'm really excited for it. And he signed it for me while we were there, which is really cool. Butcher Cabin. That was the day before Halloween last year. So this is Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman. And he was a super nice guy. Talked to him for like an hour or so. Super nice guy. All right, so this next book. This next book is one that no one watching this video is going to care about, but I care about it. What is it? I think Chad Lutzke. So this is a guilty pleasure book, but I think it was Chad Lutzke, if I'm not mistaken, that said you should not feel guilty about the books you enjoy. So it's just a pleasure book. That sounds weird to say it like that, but this is a guilty pleasure book for me. I like this author. Everyone else loves to hate on this author, but that's okay. This is The Lost Symbol by Dan Brown. I've read 2 of his other books in the Robert Langdon series. I think this is book 3. I've read Angels and Demons and The Da Vinci Code. This is book 3. I just really like these books. Are they the greatest pieces of literature that are going to win all these prestigious awards? No, but are they a fun, good time? For me, absolutely. It's sort of a modern day, kind of more nerdy Indiana Jones type of book. And I really like them. I read Angels and Demons sort of back when I was getting into reading again, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, however long it was now. And that's a, I don't know, 400, maybe 500 page book. I read it in like 2 or 3 days, which was like blazing fast for me. I couldn't put it down. Are they historically accurate? Probably not for the most part, but I don't know. I like it. It's fun. I like all the mystery and the history in there. Even though if he makes it all up, I don't really care. So this one's for me. Don't hate on me in the comments. This one is Dan Brown, The Lost Symbol. All right, got our last stack here. So this one is The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. This is a dark fantasy book, I believe. It's sort of following a guild of thieves, the Takers Guild. And I don't know where the black tongue, do they cut people's tongues off and they turn black? I don't know, but it's, like I said, it's dark fantasy, follows some thieves, which is really cool. And I've heard that Christopher Buehlman writes some good fantasy. He's got another book called Between Two Fires, I believe. It's like medieval horror, and I've heard that book's amazing. I've got it on audiobook. I tried to listen to an audiobook. I couldn't get into it. I think it was more the narrator. And that's a book I need to actually sit down and physically see the words on the page as opposed to just listening to the audio. I do okay with audiobooks, depending on what it is. But I've heard that one's great, and this one sounds cool. I don't know if this is part of a series or if this is a standalone, but some fantasy stuff about some thieves. That sounds right on my alley. I love Dungeons and Dragons too. So this one sounds kind of like a Dungeons and Dragons-esque kind of book. The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. Read about some fantasy thieves. And this one is one of my most anticipated reads of this year. I believe the book is out now. I think it came out on Valentine's Day, if I'm not mistaken. I got an ARC of it. I was lucky enough to get an ARC. This is On the Savage Side by Tiffany McDaniel. I read her book Betty and loved, absolutely loved that book. It's back there on the shelf. It was the most gorgeously, beautifully written, traumatic book that I've ever read. I'm not ashamed to say that book made me cry multiple times while I was reading it. And I've heard this one is even more soul-crushing and heartbreaking than Betty was. This one is about the Chillicothe 6 in Ohio that took place, I don't know, it hasn't been too long ago, like 2013, 2015, somewhere in there, where 6 women, I believe they were all sort of like prostitutes and things like that. People that say if they died, people wouldn't miss them, you know, those kind of women were getting killed, and she took inspiration from that to write this one. It's inspired by the true story of the Chillicothe murders, a harrowing novel about 6 women who have gone missing and 2 sisters who could be the next victims. But I've heard this might be her best book, and she is maybe one of the best living writers putting out books today. So I'm really excited for this one. This is On the Savage Side by Tiffany McDaniel. All right, next up, this is Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. I believe it was Indish of last year we read, what's his book called? Razorblade Tears. I think that was one of the book club books. Maybe, I can't remember for sure. But we all really enjoyed that one, and this one came out before that one. So I really enjoy his work. This is about a husband, a father, a son, a business owner, and the best getaway driver east of the Mississippi. So some more crime fiction. Probably our main character is wanting to get out of crime. Probably gets pulled back in for one last thing. Probably, I don't know. I don't want to read the synopsis too much. But yeah, he did great with Razorblade Tears. Some great gritty crime stuff. Looking forward to this one. And a getaway driver, that's really sort of a perspective you don't get too often in fiction. They're usually the background character, and your main characters are the ones going in robbing the banks and stuff. But to focus on a getaway driver, that's a cool sort of different perspective. So Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. Next up, this is Fear by my buddy Ronald Kelly. This is sort of his magnum opus, sort of his big, you know, Stephen King has It, Ronald Kelly has Fear. This is sort of his big coming of age book. And this version is out of print, but it might already be out. If not, it should be coming out soon. The reprint of this, and he's writing Fear 2. He's writing a sequel to this, and this one came out a long time ago. Does it say when it was originally published? 1994 was when it was originally published with, who is it? Zebra Books. So he's now writing the sequel. What has it been? Almost 30-ish years later. So that'll be cool. This takes place in Fear County in Tennessee, and there's some kind of lizard monster involved, lizard, spider, kind of like creature involved. And if you ever buy a book from Ronald Kelly directly, like from him on his website, he's always going to sign it for you, and he's always going to do some kind of cool artwork in there, which is really cool. He's a super stand-up guy, super cool. And a lot of people have compared this to Stephen King's It, sort of that nice coming-of-age story with a group of friends, group of kids that get tried by whatever evil entity it is. You know, is it the evil spider clown in It, or is it this lizard kind of creature in Fear? So I'm really looking forward to this one. This is Ronald Kelly, Fear. Next up is Wool by Hugh Howey. I really don't know too much about this one, other than people say it's like one of the greatest science fiction books of all time. Kevin Redbeard talks about it a lot, and when he talks about it, it sort of reminds me of the Fallout games, because he talks about like everyone's in the silo, and I don't know if there's like different groups or civilizations in these silos that have been built. I don't even know what called. I think it's dystopian, maybe apocalyptic. I don't know if it was like nuclear war, or if I'm just completely way off in what's going on, but I think people live in all these kind of silos. What would you do if the world outside was deadly and the air you breathe could kill? And you lived in a place where every birth required a death. So I guess they can only have a certain amount of people in there. So if someone new comes in, someone's got to go. That sounds interesting. I think this is his theories as well. I think there's more books in this, but this is Wool by Hugh Howey, one I've had forever and been wanting to read forever as well. Up next is Night Film by Marisha Pessel, and this edition, I guess they're all the same, has like notes and photographs and stuff in the middle about what's going on. And this one sounds super kind of weird and strange. Let's see. Ashley Cordova, the mysterious gifted daughter of the reclusive film director Stanislaus Cordova, is found dead in an abandoned warehouse in Lower Manhattan. Her death is ruled as suicide, but veteran investigation journalist Scott McGrath suspects otherwise. So something with film involved in books really is like older film really interests me as well. Sylvia Moreno Garcia has a book coming out called Silver Nitrate, I think, which is about sort of older films and involving that with horror. I don't know, something about that just really intrigues me. This book's got dust all over it. So I'm excited for this one, just mainly based off that sort of the dad is like this reclusive film director, and he's kind of mysterious and weird. This is Night Film by Marisha Pessel. This one is a true crime book, and I think it's being made into either a movie or film by Martin Scorsese. It's got Leonardo DiCaprio and things in it. This is Killers of the Flower Moon by David Gran. The Osage Murders and the Birth of the FBI. So this one sounds really interesting. This was the Osage Nation, Native Americans. They were like the wealthiest people in the United States at one point, and there was oil on their land. And white people were wanting them to sell the land, and they wouldn't do it. So basically the white people went in and murdered them all, and then took the land from them to gain access to that oil. Super tragic, terrible, horrible story. Something that sounds very interesting. Something I want to learn more about in reading this book. So this is Killers of the Flower Moon, The Osage Murders and the Birth of the FBI by David Gran. 2 more left. You're sticking with me? I hope you're still here. This one is City of Blood. This is book number 5 in the Nightmareland Chronicles series by Daniel Barnett. I've read the first 4 books. I was going to name them off, but I'm not going to do that because I'll mess them up. But all 6 volumes are out so far. I've got volume 6 back there. It was back there. It fell over. I don't remember what it's called. But it's super thick. But this is book 5, City of Blood. I love this story so far. What are our characters' names? It's been so long since I've read one of these. Let's see. Does it say in here? I don't want to take too much time. Mariah's one. I can't remember the deaf kid's name. John is the guy, I think. I can't remember. But if you like post-apocalyptic horror, also sort of in the same vein as The Last of Us, sort of this journey type of story, definitely check out this series. It is, and it's different. It's not a virus, and it's not like nuclear war. It is one day the sun just went off, like someone flipped the light switch and plunged the world as we know it, at least America, into darkness, and that just caused people to sort of go crazy. And then there is this like weird lullaby that people hear through any type of electronic device. So your phone, radio, computer, anything with a speaker, this voice kind of sings you to sleep. And while you're asleep, you have nightmares, and then those nightmares actually manifest and become living physical things in the real world. It's a super cool concept, and the writing is great. His prose is beautiful and amazing. So this is book 5 in this series. I'm really looking forward to it, and once I read it, I also want to read book 6. This is City of Blood by Daniel Barnett, volume number 5 in his Nightmareland Chronicles series. And then the final book on my 23 books I want to read in 2023 is Gone South by Robert McCammon. I've only read a few McCammon books. I've read The Listener was my first one. I've read Boy's Life. And that might be the only 2. I don't think I've read a third one. But this one is sort of his Southern Gothic type of story about a boy that finds a dead body, I think. Let's see. It says, flooded by memories, poisoned by the deadly fallout of Agent Orange, and desperate for work, Dan Lambert kills a man in a moment of blind fear and fury. I don't want to read anymore. I love Robert McCammon's writing. I love this old school cover with the people in the boat going down the river. All the Spanish moss and stuff hanging down in the swamp. That's just a setting I love, the South. But I'm excited for this one. Again, I haven't read much McCammon, but he's an author I really want to be reading more of. I really want to read his series of books that's like historical fiction. I can't remember the name of it right now. The first book is like Speaks the Nightbird, I think, in that series. I want to read those, but I'm going to read Gone South by Robert McCammon. Really looking forward to it. Some Southern Gothic fiction there. That's it. That is my 23 and 23. I think I'm going to do that hashtag. I think other people have done it as well. Keep up with my progress. So if you're interested, keep up with my progress either on Twitter or Instagram. I'll do the hashtag 23 and 23. But that's it. Those are the 23 books I'm going to try to read this year. So fingers crossed. Wish me luck. I'm going to try to focus on this as my TBR for the year. Of course, along with all the other books I'm going to read this year as well, for paper cuts and all that kind of stuff. But these I definitely want to try to get done this year. That's it. Thanks for hanging out with me today, spending your time with me. Again, my name is Brad, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.